Very good morning, everyone. So fine. Fine. So last session, I've just been completed up talking about how to run a web applications in a public environment. So if at all you wanted to run your web pages, not like web application, web page, collection of web pages is called as a web application or a website, whatever it is. If at all you want to run your web application or a website global, means if you want to be accessible to other systems, what do you require? You require a software called as IIS. The IIS software should be available on your system. And once the IIS software is available on your system, you can start accessing your web pages from remote computers within the network. So I did not tell you this one. So how can I access it globally? How can I access it globally from other systems anywhere in the world? If that is the case, you're required to host it on a public server. You're required to host it on a public web server. You're going to host it on a public web server. Okay. So right now we just hosted on the IIS. Once you host it on IIS, it is accessible only within the organization LAN. So intranet. So basically, simply speaking, what is it? Intranet. It is just intranet based. But if at all you want to access it globally from anywhere in the world, then you need to host your web pages or your web applications on a public server. So once hosted on a public server, then you will be getting a global access. Then you get a global access, that is, you can access the pages from anywhere you want. Yeah. See, the missing classes will be provided to you in the videos, Arvind. So we just been finished up 6 classes, and you'll be provided with the videos for all the 6 sessions. First tell me, are you aware of C# and HTML? C#, HTML, JavaScript. Yeah, guys, if anyone is new into the session, we still did not start with MVC. We've just been only talking about how to run our web pages from other systems. So thing is, if anyone is new into the session, further I'm just telling you, to attend the session, these are the prerequisites first. Yeah, these are the prerequisites to attend your session. So you must be familiar with all these things. SQL Server, a month after, if you are, we need after a month, but initially we need familiarity with all these things. C#, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Okay, the missing class videos will be provided. Actually, I just have only 5 session videos. The 6th session video still I did not get it up. So once I get it up, I'll post it up. Meanwhile, guys, you can just watch the first 5 videos. The last class video will be provided. You can copy them. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is, video Saturday video Pampimanu. Okay. So yeah. So last day where we just been stopped it is, just a minute. Just a second. Yeah, we just been started up our discussion here, talking about a concept called as design patterns. So what are these design patterns? Design patterns, as I explained to you in the last session, design patterns basically talks about a problem and a solution, a frequently occurred problem and a solution for that problem. I repeat, design pattern talks about a frequently occurred problem and a solution. You have a problem and a solution for the problem is what we call as a design pattern. Okay. So actually, host file does not show anything when I open it in Notepad. Is IIS installed on your machine, Qureshi? First check that. If IIS is not installed, you will not get it. Just make sure IIS is installed first. Yeah. Design patterns. Design patterns represents the best practices used by experienced object-oriented software developers. So what is it? This is going to the best practices used by experienced object-oriented software developers. Design patterns are solutions to general problems that software developers face during software development. These solutions are obtained by trial and error by numerous software developers over quite a substantial period. That is, when you develop your applications, mostly most of us will be coming across some common problems. I may have a problem, similar problem can be faced by you also. So I got a problem when I was developing an application here. I got a problem when I was developing an application. So to resolve the problem, I have implemented some logic. I have implemented some logic and I was successful in it. I was successful. Tomorrow, you came to me and asked, sir, this is a problem I'm facing in my project. So what to do? So I said that I too face the same problem. So this is how I resolved. So you too implemented, you are also successful. Then what do? You start telling to other people who ask you now, yes or not. Means a problem and a solution for the problem. And that becomes, over a period of time, many people started using the same solution and are successful. And now that is called as a design pattern. And now that is called as a design pattern. Okay. So solutions to most frequently occurring problems are just what we call them as design patterns. So in the industry, guys, over a period of time, they have just been done some numerous trial and error and made out 23 design patterns actually. There are 23 design patterns in the industry. Okay. So design patterns have been evolved over a period of time and they provide best solutions to certain problems during software development. Learning this design pattern helps unexperienced developers to learn software design in an easy and fast way. Design patterns are solutions to software design problems you find again and again in real world application development. That's what again and again, see, that's what I'm telling you. I faced it, same problem you're facing, and same problem someone else is facing. So similar problems what people are facing. Okay, solutions for the particular problems are design patterns. Next. You need to understand about it. Who designed these design patterns? Who designed the design patterns? Actually, design patterns are designed by 4 people and we call them as gang of 4. We just call them as gang of 4. This gang of 4 basically it designed the design patterns. See, in 1994, 4 authors, Eric Gamma, Richard Helm, Ralph Johnson, and John Mercedes published a book titled Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software, which initiated the concept of design patterns in software development. Actually, there's a foundation for the design patterns in software development. These authors are collectively known as Gang of 4. The book is divided into basically into 2 parts. The book is divided into 2 parts. First part explaining about pros and cons of object-oriented programming, and in the second, explaining the evolution of 23 software design patterns. Actually, the book is divided into two parts actually. The first part will talk about the advantages and disadvantages of object-oriented programming, that is pros and cons. And the second one is going to explain about the evolution of the 23 software design patterns. Now see, types of design patterns. As per the design pattern reference book, design patterns elements of reusable software or object-oriented software, there are 23 design patterns which can be classified into three categories actually. What are the three categories? Creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. So they divided the concept of the design patterns into three categorizations. We call them as creational patterns, structural patterns, and the design patterns. So three different classifications what they have made for you. So what are creational patterns, what are structural patterns, and one is behavioral patterns. So actually creational pattern talks about creational pattern talks about object creations. Object creation. Creational pattern talks about the object creation actually. So if you observe it, so three things, creation pattern. This design pattern provides a way to create object while hiding the creation logic rather than instantiating object directly using new operator. What is it here? It will tell you, it will talk about instance creation without using new keyword. It will talk about instance creation without using a new keyword. Generally, all of you in the C# classes, what you learned about creating the instance by using the new keyword. But here we will be creating instance without using new keyword. Means internally new keyword is used, but you will not use the new keyword. Means actual logic of creating the instance is hidden from you. This gives program more flexibility in deciding which object needs to be created for a given use case. So I'll tell you about it. Next, structural pattern. What structural pattern? These design patterns concern classes and object composition. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define ways to compose objects to obtain new functionalities. It talks about inheritance, guys. Mainly it talks about inheritance. How do you break up your classes, identifying the common things, putting in the parents, using interfaces, all these things it will talk about. The structural pattern basically talks about that. And third one is behavioral patterns. These design patterns are especially concerned with communication between objects. This basically talks about how objects are going to communicate with each other. How objects are going to communicate with each other. So what is the first one? A creational pattern. So this creational pattern, if at all you talk about the creational patterns here, under creational patterns, we have 5 design patterns available. What are the 5? Abstract factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. All these things comes for you under creational pattern. Oh, is that, yeah, don't play and don't disturb the classroom. Yeah. So what is it? It is talking about 5 things here: abstract factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. And what creation pattern talks about? I said, this talks about object creation without the use of new keyword. So in this, I said, our discussion is not about design patterns. Only thing I just want to give you an idea what is a design pattern. So for that reason only I just started up this discussion. We are not learning about the design patterns, and that is not our syllabus also. Just to give an idea what is the design pattern only I was talking about this. So that's why I'm not going to talk about each and every design pattern here. So just for you to understand what exactly is a design pattern, for you exactly to understand what exactly is a design pattern, I have just thought of talking about design patterns and how they just been useful for us. In this, we'll talk about this one, guys. What is it? Singleton. What is a singleton? I have a class. In the class, I have written the code for connecting to a database. I have written the code for connecting to a database. And guys, remember, if at all you wanted to connect to a database, some of you are already familiar with the database programming, some of you are still not. But if at all you just want to work with a database, all of you must remember this one. If you want to connect to a database, we are provided with one predefined class called connection. We need to create the instance of that class and call open. And whenever you call open, it will open a connection to the database actually. Okay. Now, the problem here is, suppose if I create 10 instances to my particular class and call open, it will open 10 connections now. It will open 10 connections. If one application only opens 10 connections now, many people connecting to the server, opening multiple connections can cause you a problem. What is it? More number of connections to the server, and some point of time the server cannot be responding. So the concept is like one application should have only one connection. Multiple connections should not be opened. Are you clear? Yes or not? If that is the case, I want my class, for my class, what I designed for connecting to the database, should be having only one instance to be created. Multiple instances should not be created. Is the point clear? How many instances should be created? Only one instance to be created. Multiple instances for the class should not be created. This is my requirement. Okay. And that's basically what we call as a singleton. That's actually what we call as a singleton. Singleton means only one instance creation for the appropriate class without the option of creating multiple instances. How do you do that? Watch. Public class test. Public class test. My class is public. Because my class is public, can everyone create the instance of the class or not? Everyone can create the instance of the class. But what did I do, In my class, I am writing private test. What is this? Constructor. What constructor? Private constructor. Now tell me, even though my class is public, my constructor is private. Can anyone create the instance of the class? No one can create the instance of the class. Why? A constructor call, to create an instance, you need to make a constructor call, and constructor is not accessible to you because the constructor is private. Is that clear? So no one can create the instance of this class now. So first thing, by defining a private constructor, you are just going to restrict. No one can create the instance of your particular class. Okay. Now all of you watch it. Test obj is what I declared. Test obj is what I declared is equals to null. So what is the value of it? Null. The value of this particular class is going to be null. Okay. I did not initialize it still. It is a variable of the class. It is a variable of the class, uninitialized copy. Now I'm going to write one method, public static test. Create object is my method name. So all of you observe it. What is the method? Static method. So do I need an instance to call this? No. What is the method name? What is the return type? Return type is test, means same class only. The return type is test, means same class. So inside of it, I will write the code like this. What if obj is equals to null. Yeah, obj is null only now. We declared obj is null only. Then I'll say obj is equals to new test. Obj is equals to new test. If it is null, I'll say obj is equals to new test. And then I'll say return test. Return test. So all of you, just a minute. This one will declaring make it static. Why? Non-static members of a class cannot be accessed in a static block directly now. So I'm declaring this as static. So what I'm doing, obj is equals to new test and return test. Okay. Now see, I have another class here, class program. Here I'm writing the main method. Now tell me, can I create the instance of the class test here? Test t is equals to new test. Can I do this? Is invalid. I can't do this. Why, sir? Because the constructor of the class is declared private here. You cannot call the constructor now. So the way of creating an instance by using a new keyword is invalid here. You cannot create an instance by calling the new keyword, by using the new keyword. Not possible. Then how can I create the instance? You want to create an instance of the class? This is how you should create. Test t is equals to test dot create object. Test dot create object, and this is a valid code. This is a valid code. So what is it? When you call, it will create the object. Now in this, we write all the methods, non-static methods, which can be called by using the T. Now, what is the logic in this? You can, whenever you want an instance, you'll be calling this one only. In your project, wherever you need an instance, you'll be calling this. But how many instances will be created? One instance only. Why one instance? Because what did you write the code here? Obj is equals to null, means instance is not created. Create the instance and return, correct? If the instance is already created, it will return the same existing instance only now. Did you get my point? If the instance is already created, what will return you? The same existing instance only, means all these things. What is T here? Reference. The T is a reference. Actually, how many instances are there? One. All what you, whenever you call this, what it will give you? It will give you a new reference. So for one instance, you create 100 references also. Memory allocation is done only one time. You learned already in the object-oriented programming. Yes or not? And all of them are going to deal with the same instance only, not with multiple instances. So this is what we call as singleton pattern. This is what we call a singleton pattern. For my class, I want only one instance to be created. I don't want multiple instances of the class to be created in this. What is the difference between static class? Static class and singleton. How static class and singleton are related, I don't understand. Static class means static class basically contains only static members. All the members will be static only. No need any instance at all. No need any instance at all. But singleton means we need an instance. One instance is created and the same instance is used by all the people. Oh, sorry guys. I'm wrong. I'm sorry guys. This is written OBJ. This is written OBJ. I'm sorry. You can just see if OBJ is equals to null. If OBJ is equals to null, what are we doing? Creating an instance, and we are saying return OBJ. Are you clear? Okay, we're just going to return the OBJ in this case now. Yeah. Someone asking, is the voice breaking still, guys? Someone telling voice is clear. Yeah, someone asked about static class and singleton pattern. Singleton pattern means you can just observe, Nani. Okay. Voice breaking. Guys, voice is breaking for a few people. That's your network issue. Disconnect and connect once. If voice breaks, that's going to be your network issue. If the problem for all, that's a problem from my side. Yeah. Now talking about static class, someone is asking static class and singleton, what is the difference? What is the difference is static class means if 100 people are trying to consume this, basically static class means it's going to be a single copy for all. But when you talk about it, now here, it will create you a separate instance for each and every application here. It will create you a separate instance for each and every application. For every application, the instance is separately created in this context. But there it's not like all the people will be dealing with the same data. All people will be dealing with the same data. They're completely different. And one more thing, yeah. In C# classes, guys, if you recollect yourself in the C# classes, one day, in the C# classes, we learned about the types of constructors. Do you remember how many types of constructors are there? 5 types. What are the 5 types? Default constructor, parameterized constructor, private constructor, static constructor, copy constructor. You forgot the one thing, copy constructor. And on that day, I said about a private constructor, If you remember, when I explained about the concept of the private constructor, I said I'll explain you about this in the MVC classes to you. So private constructor means, read it once. If a constructor is explicitly declared by using private modifier, we call it as a private constructor. If a class contains only private constructor and no public constructor, other classes cannot create instance of that class. The use of private constructor is to show singleton classes, where a singleton class is one which limits the number of instances created to one. So number of instances that you can create for this is going to be one only. You cannot create multiple instances. So that's what. So if a class contains a private constructor, it's not possible to create multiple instances to the appropriate class. So that's what we just call as a private constructor and a singleton pattern. Are you clear what is the singleton pattern? Multiple instance creation will not be possible. Same way, guys, we have something called structural patterns. What are structural patterns? See, structural patterns talks about what? It talks about class and object compositions. Class and object composition. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define ways to compose objects to define new functionalities. In the sense, if you understand about the structural patterns, one day, all of you, we learned about a concept like abstract classes. We declared one interface, we declared one abstract class on the top called figure with an abstract method in it. With a abstract method in it. What is the method? Get area. Correct? Now under that, if you recollect, just a minute. Abstract class. Yeah. Remember, this is what we have been talked in the abstract classes. So we have a figure class here with a constant float value pi. Okay. And I'm sorry. And one more thing. What is it? An abstract method. What is that? Get area. The implementation of this get area. See, I have actually taken a class here. I can also use an interface here. I can use an abstract class or I can also use a interface here. Okay. So there's an abstract method. What is the method name? Get area. Now this get area should be implemented by the child classes, correct? And the implementation of the get area is going to be same for all the child classes or varies from class to class. The way you calculate the area for cone, the way you calculate the area for circle, for triangle and rectangle varies from figure to figure, right? Is it same for all? No. It is just going to be completely varying from figure to figure. The way you implement in the cone class, the way you implement in the circle class, the way you implement in the triangle class, and the way you implement in the rectangle class is completely different from one to the other. Am I correct? So that is what only the second thing is going to talk about. Structural pattern talks about. See, this design pattern concerns class and object composition. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define ways to compose objects to obtain new functionalities. Means the functionality is going to vary in each and everything. So we implement in one way in cone class, another way in circle class, another way in triangle class, and another way in rectangle class. Tomorrow we have an extra thing like a octagon, a polygon, a hexagon. The implementation of the get area varies now. Yes or not? So that's what exactly the structural pattern talks about. Third one. What is the third one? Behavioral patterns. What are behavioral patterns? They are especially concerned with communication between objects. Communication between the objects. The best example I can give for this particular for communication with patterns is, communication of objects means, if you recollect yourself, this one also I explained in the C# classes to you. Are you good with C#? What's your name? Poco. What's that? Yeah, put your name there. Put your name there. Do you know C# first? I did not get a response from you. Yeah. So Then without knowing C sharp, then how are you attending this class then? If you know C sharp, in the C sharp classes, I clearly explained for the people like what exactly is a static class and what is the problem with a static class and when static can be used. Can we use static in all the scenarios? Static cannot be used in all the scenarios. We very clearly learned static is going to be very much specific in nature. In all places, we cannot use the static members or the static classes. Okay, so first you need to have a clear understanding of object-oriented programming, Mr. Poco. So to understand what is the difference between a static class and a, what is the use of creating a static member and writing instance members. So you must be familiar with C sharp for that first. So actually, if you are new into .NET, this is not the class, this is not the right class for you. At 10:15, we have a new batch for, and 10:15 we have a class for .NET full stack, where will be started with C sharp first. If you are not familiar with the C sharp or if you are new to .NET, that is what you require to learn first, not this. You're doing that class, then you cannot parallelly do this class then. Okay, so a lot of confusions you'll be facing. That's why I said you in the starting class, you must be good with C sharp. So parallelly you attend both, you'll be having a lot of confusions. So I don't suggest, I don't recommend. So if you attend these type of questions, or these type of doubts and confusions, only what you face. Okay, so fine. Now coming back, yeah. One day in your C sharp classes, guys, I explained about a case study about ATM systems. A case study about ATM systems to you. When I explained about the case study of an ATM systems, I just been talked about this also to you, about the ATM systems. When I explained, I talked about this. What's it? Like, what I said, actual class will be present on a central server. What do we call as a application server? All the instances of the class will be created on the client computer or the server computers, but a reference to that will come to client machine. A reference to that instance will come to the client machine. Using that references, clients can call the members of the server. Clients can call the members of the server. Means, simply speaking, the third one, what is the third one here? Behavioral patterns. What behavioral patterns talks about? The behavioral patterns talk, the design pattern especially concerned with communication between objects. You see, a reference will be sitting on the client computer and an instance will be sitting on the server computer, and this reference starts talking with the server. So objects are communicating with each other now. The objects are communicating with each other. That's what we call as behavioral patterns. That's what we call as a behavioral patterns. So like this, we just have three different design pattern concepts that are available here. Creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. But guys, you need to learn design patterns, but not going to be very important now. You need to learn design patterns once we go into application development, not now. Now, frankly speaking, now design patterns will be confusing. So when you can learn or understand about these design patterns is not now. Once you go into the industry, suppose you're trying as a fresher, no one will ask you about a design pattern or something. But someone claims to have, I have 4 years of experience or 5 years experience. For you, design patterns, you might already use them in your applications and you might already know about the design patterns also. But for a fresher, understanding about design patterns is not going to be important. You just only require to have an idea. What is a design pattern? That one I clarified you. What's a design pattern? A problem. The solution for the problem is what we call as a design pattern. It talks about problems and solutions. The frequently occurring problems and the solutions. Okay. Guys, last 2 days, Arvind did not respond because it is a holiday for us. So it is a holiday. People are not working. The people are not working for Sunday and Monday. Okay. So right now, Arvind is on his device. Arvind is on his device. He'll be responding for all your messages. So he has put a message on the group. He was online now. You can just contact him for all your queries. Don't call him, just to ping him. So the complete details are present in this, how to pay the fees and all the details. Okay, and once you complete your payments, just contact him. He will add you into the Google Classroom. Yeah, it's all about design patterns, what we just have. And our discussion is not about design patterns at all. Our discussion is not about design patterns. But what I said you is, many people think MVC is a design pattern. Many people think MVC is a design pattern, but what I just want to correct them is MVC is not a design pattern here. MVC is not at all a design pattern. MVC is a architectural pattern. I repeat, MVC is not a design pattern. MVC is a architectural pattern. So what MVC talks about, frankly speaking, MVC is something which is going to talk about MVC is something which talks about the architecture of an application. The architecture of an application. So last class, I studied about the difference between architectural pattern and design pattern. What is architectural pattern? Architectural pattern basically talks about what architectural pattern talks about. Architectural pattern talks about the entire application development. It just talks about the entire application development. Architectural pattern is something like a plan of a house. It is something like a plan of your house. The plan of your house talks about the whole house or about your bedroom. It talks about the whole house. It doesn't talk only about the bedroom. Okay. So the architectural patterns are important for us, not the design patterns. So what is an architectural pattern? Architectural pattern is something which talks about, it has a broader scope. It basically has a broad scope. Actually, the architectural patterns will be only explaining about the concept of the architecture of an application. It talks about the architecture of an application actually. How to build an application. So basically what is it going to talk about? How to build an application. This is what exactly architectural patterns will be talking about. How to build an application. So they do not talk about a small thing, that they are having much broader scope. They have much broader scope and they'll be talking about the complete application development, but not about a part of an application, but not about a part of the application actually. So when you want to build an application, suppose tomorrow you just want to develop an application. If you want to develop an application, then what you require to follow is a architectural pattern. You want to build an application, what you require to follow is about the architectural pattern. Then when should I use the design pattern here? When should I use the design pattern is, when you're building an application, guys listen, when you're building an application, you are facing a problem at some area. When you are building an application, you are facing a problem at some area. Some area you're facing a problem. While building a washroom, you're facing a problem. So when you're facing a problem while building a washroom, something about a leakage problem or something, then what we say? Then we adopt some solution for this, and that's what design pattern is. So who talks about the whole application? Design pattern or architecture pattern? Architecture pattern. What design pattern talks about? What design pattern talks about? Design pattern talks about only a solution for a particular problem. A solution for a particular problem. It doesn't talk about all the things. It's just going to talk about only a problem and a solution for that particular problem. But architectural pattern talks about the whole application. I hope it's clear, all of you. Yes or not? Okay. Just a minute. Arvind, hold on guys. Yeah. Now, let's talk about these architectural patterns. Let us talk about these architectural patterns. About these architectural patterns, let's try to understand about it. See guys, an architecture pattern is a general reusable solution to a commonly occurring problem in software architecture within the given context. It is about the architecture. These are like software design patterns only, but have a broader scope. Broader scope. The scope is going to be not smaller, the scope is going to be broader. Software application architecture is the process of defining a structured solution that meets all the technical and operational requirements while optimizing common quality attributes such as performance, security, and manageability. Means it talks about all these things here. It talks about the performance of the application. It talks about the security of the application. It talks about the manageability of the application. See, from the when your architect gives a plan for the house, he talks about all these things. He talks about the vastu of your house. He talks about the security of the house. Okay, you want to put a window somewhere. When you want to put a window somewhere at some location, he talks about that also. What is that? Array, putting a window there is a security threat. Tomorrow someone can easily crack or break into your house now. Correct or not? So that's what. So it talks about a lot of things. It just not talks about only one area. It talks about lots of things. So everything, performance, security, manageability, all these things architectural pattern talks about. It involves a series of decisions based on a wide range of factors, and each of these decisions have considerable impact on the quality, performance, maintainability, and overall success of the application. The architectural pattern address various issues in software engineering, such as the computer hardware performance limitation, high availability, and minimizing of a business risk at the cost. All these things, yeah, the architecture, when the architect gives you a plan, it talks about the cost of the building also. You're asking to build a duplex house, then he will tell you the cost factors also for that. You want to build a cellar parking for your house now, or you are building a commercial complex and you are planning to build a cellar parking for that. So if you want to build a cellar parking, actually, if you build any house from the ground level, cost will be less here. But if at all you go to cellar parking, the cost will be 1.5. Means for one floor, if it costing you 10 lakhs, if you dig down and go for a cellar parking, it will be 1.5 lakhs. It is 1 lakh, it will be 1.5 lakhs, because you're going down, you need to manage all the things, water problems and all, and the surrounding all the construction should be concrete based. That's what it will give you, all the cost factors also. It will tell you about all the cost factors. Same way, when we are building an application tomorrow in the industry, all of us will sit together, all of us will be sitting together, and after sitting together, all of us after sitting together, what we do will become come to consensus. We'll come to the consensus understanding about all the things like see, the top level management like the project leaders, the database administrators, okay, like next project managers, all the people, sometimes even team leaders, all these people sit together before they start building an application, and they discuss about a lot of parameters here. So I say this architecture will be better. So someone tells that, and if you follow this architecture, these are the problems. Is my point clear? Someone tells that, okay, if these are the problems, we can resolve it like this. If these are the problems, we can resolve it like this. Like that, lot of discussions will go, and finally we come out with an architecture which will best suit for our applications. It's not like a decision making in 1 day or 2 days. It's a long process, discussing about the pros and cons, and after discussing about all the pros and cons, then the application development really starts. Are you clear? Recently in our company, we are just going for upgrading our application, like our data, whole data, we are upgrading to store in the SAP systems. Nearly I remember existing only, but we are trying to just enhance the securities and all the things. I still remember here, the discussions went for 5 months. From Jan they started until May end, the discussions went. And implementation took for us 1 month. When everything is set ready, we have just implemented everything for 1 month. By June end we completed, and by July first week it went up to production, and by July end All the problems have been stabilized, and from August 1st, everything is in pipeline. I understand, yeah, implementation and all these things, 1-2 months we're done. But our discussions went for 5 months with the offshore team, with SAP team, directly with the SAP team, sitting with them, talking about the architecture, how they are going to provide us the services to consume, and all the things. Simple. The thing is, the company don't want us to directly access the database. The company don't want us to directly access the database. So database access is not available to us. We are web developers. We are just developing the web app for that, and this should not be directly accessing the database actually. So in between, they have put SAP systems for security reasons. Our application will go to SAP, and SAP will provide access to database. So now, how SAP is going to provide us the services to access the database is the big question. So nearly 5 months of discussion went on continuously, regularly. So we come out with some few questions, they come out with some solutions. Again, afterwards, if for those solutions, what are the problems we are facing? All these consults and discussion went for 5 months. So once all the discussions are completed, they provided us all the services what are required in these 5 months, and it has taken 1 month to implement for us the services. But understand, the discussion only has been happened for 5 months. So that's what. Before we conclude an architecture, lot of discussions happen for you, and finally we just come out, okay, this will be a best architecture for our application. So that's what exactly architectural patterns talks about. And here you can have a list of the architectural patterns. There are so many architectural patterns in the industry, and it's a big list of architectural patterns what we have. Guys, all the 6 videos are posted. You can just check it out in the chat window. All the 6 videos of the last week are posted in the chat window. Yeah, the whole list of the architectural patterns what we have. Blackboard system, Roca pattern, event-driven architecture. Guys, event-driven architecture, I said in the last class, your Windows application development. All of you who are familiar with Windows programming, event-driven architecture, you're already using it there. All of you who know web forms, event-driven architecture, you know there. Windows forms, web forms, all this follows what? Event-driven architecture. Implicit invocation, layers, layering. What is layering? Layering, generally guys, this layering adopted in most of the applications, like dividing an application into like business logic, data logic, presentation logic. That's what we call as layering. Did you get my point? Layering means we are just being break down the application into different components, like what we call business logic, where all we write our business logic, data logic, the code for database interactions, and the other thing is the front end. That's what we call as layering. Microservices, and this is one of the most important architecture what the industry is following today, and what we are going to learn now. What is that? Model view controller. Model view controller. Okay, I'll explain you in detail about that. Presentation abstraction control, model view presenter, model view view model, entity component system, multi-tier architecture, naked objects, operation data source, peer-to-peer, pipe and filter, service-based architecture, and space-based architecture. Like this, so many architectures. And one thing I want to clarify you. Everyone in the industry is not aware about all these architectures. Don't expect everyone to be familiar with the architectures. I worked most on MVC, I'm good on MVC architecture. Someone may be good at microservices. Someone may be good at multi-tier architecture. Someone may be good at peer-to-peer architecture. So what I'm trying to tell is every person need not be good in all these particular places. Generally, layering, Sai Kumar, layering is what we follow in desktop development. Yeah, MVC may look like that, but layering is something what we use in the desktop application development. In the desktop application development, we just go for using the concept of the layerings. Okay, so every person in the industry need not be familiar with every architecture, or everyone need not be, suppose you're just going to be studied engineering now. Something you studied a computer engineering. and I ask you a question about something in a mechanical and ask your engineering. Engineering means there are so many engineerings, yeah. In that you done one specialization. Engineering means you don't go into do all the specializations in engineering. Na? So exactly what is important for us, we learn that, that's all. It's not like I should know about all the design patterns. It's not like I should be aware of all the architectural patterns also. What I need, I will learn there, that's all. Even if the 23 design patterns, even if you learn all the 23 design patterns, you really don't remember here which pattern should be used at which time. When the problem comes, then you learn, you'll understand, okay, for this problem, this architecture suits or this design pattern suits, that's all. Is it clearer or not? Okay, it's not like you learn of all the 23 design patterns and go into the industry, and suddenly if I ask a question, when should I use this design pattern? You'll not be able to answer. It's not going to, until you practically implement. Practical knowledge is completely different from the theoretical knowledge. Okay, so that's what. Yeah, the various architectures what we have. In that, the architecture what are we going to follow is about the MVC architecture. So let's learn in detail today, like what is MVC architecture and what exactly is this MVC. Yeah. MVC stands for Model, View and Controller. Model, View, Controller. Model, View and Controller. So what is this model? What is this view and what is this controller? Okay, let's try to understand about in detail about this model, view, controller. So we'll start with a controller first. Controller. What's a controller? What is a controller? This is a class that contains a set of methods in it called as action methods. What is it? This is a class that contains a set of methods in it called as action methods. And these methods are called by end users. And these methods are called by end users. See, web application. Web applications is all about web page designing, correct? You design the web pages. Now, all of you carefully listen. First, web pages are two types, you are aware of it. Static web pages, dynamic web pages. What is static web page? A static web page means these pages are already designed and put on the server, you directly call them. These pages are directly created and put on the server, you directly call them. For example, registration page. In a website, there is a registration page. The registration page is designed and put on the server. So whenever client request comes, the registration page comes as it is to the client, correct? All people will be using the same registration page. Am I right or not? The registration page design or color won't change for one to one. For everyone, registration page looks alike now. Am I correct or not? So that's what we call static page, login page, registration page, help page, about page, home page. All these are static pages. How do we design static pages? Sorry, to design static pages, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, enough. What you learned in HTML classes, you learned about creating static pages only, remember that. What is enough? HTML, JavaScript, CSS. These three are enough to create a static page. Are you clear? Listen here, until what extent you learned in your HTML? Your teacher might have taught you designing a registration page in HTML. Your teacher may have taught you how to improvise the look of the page by using CSS, colorings, attributes and all the things. And at the same time, your teacher may also taught you about how to do client-side validations by using JavaScript. Am I right? Beyond that, he did not teach you. Correct or not? But what about the next step? After filling all the details, validating, you click on the register button. When you click on the register button, what next? Did you get my question? What next? When you click on the register button, what next? When I click on the register button, all the data should go now, save in the database. Did you learn that in your HTML classes? Did your teacher taught you about that in the HTML classes? Where you stopped is only here. How to design a page, how to improvise a UI, and how to do Client-side validations, how to do validations by using JavaScript. Beyond that, you're not taught. Correct? The next step is what we are learning in our classes now. The next step is what we are learning in our classes now. What is the next step? The next step is taking the data and afterwards saving that into database. And any server-side validations will come. Any server-side validations has to be performed and saving that into database. See, what is server-side validation? In the sense, take a login form. In the login form, what JavaScript checks? Is the username present in a prescribed format? Is the password present in a prescribed format? Minimum characters, maximum number of characters, starting with an uppercase character, contains a special character or not, contains numerics or not, contains alphabets or not. That's what it does. But tell me, is JavaScript going to check, is the user ID password valid? Tell me. JavaScript doesn't do that. JavaScript is not going to check this user ID password are valid or not. And that is what we are going to do on the server-side code. Means web development, we are learning about what, we are learning about the next level. What's it? After all the things, the next thing what you need is a server-side technology. What you need is a server-side technology, and that server-side technology will be doing all the actions to you on the server. Validates whether this user ID password combination is correct or not. If the user ID password combination is correct, take you into the application. Otherwise, give you an error page telling you your credentials are invalid. And all that is done on the server side, and that's what the server side technology is. And what we're learning, ASP.NET is a server side technology. ASP.NET is going to be a server side technology actually. Okay? Now understand. Now you logged in into your application, you got something, you logged in Amazon. You have a login account, you logged in Amazon, got the details now. Now guys, in that you are searching for a product. You are searching for iPhone 10, for example. You are searching for iPhone 10. If I search for iPhone 10, what will happen? It is going to display you all the results matching to iPhone 10. Yes or not? When you search for that, you got a page showing you all the results matching to iPhone 10, correct? And that page is a dynamic page, not a static page. What do you mean? That page is not created and put on the server, yeah. The page came to your system and the request went to server. Did you understand or not? The page came to your machine when the request goes to server. When the request goes to server, what is happening? It is contacting the database, searching on the database that are the products matching for that, filling up all the data, constructing a page and going to show you that page based on your requirement. Got the point or not? So what is it doing? It is connecting to server, loading the data from there and going to publish you the information what you are expecting. And all the data comes from where? From the server. And that's what we just call as a server-side technology. Sorry, that's what we call as a dynamic web page. And dynamic web page, to create this dynamic web page, must and should what you require is a server-side technology. Without a server-side technology, you cannot create dynamic web pages. So what I'm trying to conclude, till now, whatever you learned in your HTML classes is only creating static web pages, but not dynamic web pages. Did you get the point or not? What you learned? Creating static web pages, but you did not learn about creating a dynamic web page. Okay? And one more thing I want to tell you. After creating a web page, you are directly calling the web page. Suppose you created a page called login.html, right? You directly call the web page now. How do you call? Two options. One, local machines, you can directly enter the physical path. If you want to call from remote machines, first all the pages should be put on a web server. That's what I explained in the last week to you all. If anyone messed up the last week sessions, I posted up all the 6 videos. You can go through it. How to access web pages from a LAN. How to access web pages from a LAN, from remote systems in the network. You need the support of a web server. And the request goes to the server and you access the page, correct? But when you come to MVC, guys, we don't call a web page directly. We don't call a web page directly. You don't call, no. Basically, MVC architecture, to understand about the MVC architecture, it's a pure object-oriented coding, guys. It's a pure object-oriented programming. So actually, what you'll have, you will be having methods in the class and you will be calling the methods. You won't call the web pages. What do you call? Methods. Read the description. This is a class that contains a set of methods in it called as action methods, and these methods are called by end users from web browser. Oh, so user is going to call the methods now? Yes, exactly. See, in console application, you define methods and learned how to call the methods, creating objects. In Windows programming, you learned about defining methods and tried calling the methods by using events. When you come to MVC or the web development, you will be calling these methods from the browser. Are you getting my point? How do you call? These methods are called from the browser. Okay. For example, just all of you have a look. Public class. Okay. Something. Test controller. So what is this? This is a controller. Yeah. I'm naming it as a test controller. Even it is not mandatory. It is always a suggested option. What is it? You know? For all controller classes, try to suffix with the word called controller. You want to design a class called employee. Name it as employee controller. You want to design a class called account. Name it as account controller. It's not a rule. It's only a suggestion. What is the rule? You know, the rule is all controller classes should inherit from a predefined class called as controller. This is rule. All exception classes should inherit from the class exception. Right? All Windows forms should inherit from the class called form. Same way, all controller classes should inherit from a class called controller. And this is defined under the namespace system.web.mvc. The namespace name is system.web.mvc. Under that namespace, we have the controller class. We need to define a class by inheriting from this. What next? In this, I wanted to write a method. Public string. Say hello. Say hello. Okay, listen. What is this? Is a public method, correct? Yes or not? It's a public method. Listen. All controller classes should inherit from the predefined class. Which class? Controller, and this class is defined under system.web.mvc namespace. Okay now? Second, all public methods in a controller class are known as action methods. How many public methods you write in the controller class? All are known as action methods. Are known as action methods, and these methods can be called by end users from web browsers. Already explained you on the top. You can call from the web browsers. You can just call. So inside of it, I'm writing return hello world. Return hello world. Okay, guys, I'm just going to do this. Now, all of you carefully listen to me. What's it, you know? This is a public class and this is a public method. This is a public method. Okay, I want to call this now. I just wanted to call this. Now, look at this carefully, all of you. What is it? I wanted to call it through IIS. I repeat, I want to call it through IIS. On IIS, I created one application under the default website. I created one application under the default website, and the application name is demo app. And application name is demo app. How do you call? HTTP localhost refers to default website. HTTP:/localhost refers to default website. It refers to default website. That's what I explained already. Default website. Okay. Slash demo app refers to the demo app under the default website, application or virtual directory, whatever it's called. Two options I said to you. One is application, one is virtual directory. Both the two things. Are you clear? That's what the demo app is all going to be. Okay. Now under that, you have your controller. What is the controller name? Test controller, right? Test slash. This is how you call, guys. You are not calling any web page directly. All of you understand. What are you calling? See, up to here you are clear with this. Up to here you are just going to be clear now. Okay. So what is this? This is going to refer to the default website. And under that, you created one virtual directory mapping to your physical folder. Under that, what do you have? Controller. What is the controller name? Test. And under that, you have a method called Salo. Now tell me, are you calling a method or are you calling a web page? Louder. You're calling a method. That's what I'm saying. You in MVC, we don't call a web page. What we call is a method. What do we call? Method. Understood? Sir, what is it going to? Right now, this method returns a string hello world. But I want a web page, sir. I want a web page. Yeah, we can do that. We can return anything you want. See here? If you want a web pages in MVC, web pages in MVC are called as views. Web pages in MVC are called as views. Means the result should be a string or the result should be a view. Did you get my question? Web pages are called views now. The result should be a string now or the result should be a view now. I want the result to be a view now. Okay, watch it all of you. How do you write this? Public. The result is view result. What is the result? View result. Okay, login, for example. And I'll say return view. What I'm returning? A view. This is going to return a view with the name called as login. This is going to return a view with the name called as login. When I do this, now come on, help me how to call the login page now. HTTP localhost demo app. Under that test, under that login. You're calling the login. The request goes to login action method, and what it returns you is the login view. The login view. So how to design the views we'll see. But first understand controller. Why I started with controller? As the name indicates, controller is the most important concept, is the most important component in the MVC application. Everyone has to come to there only. You cannot directly access anything here. It's a controller. It is a controller. Everything is controlled by this controller. Everyone should send a request directly to the controller only. You cannot send a request directly to the method. Means you cannot send a request directly to the view, not method. You cannot send a request directly to the view. Okay. So first your request will go to controller. From the controller, you'll be just calling the action method. Now action method will return the view now. Is the point clear? Like this, I can define multiple methods in my code. This is a register method. This is a register method. This is a contact. They're all different pages now. About page, contact page, register page, login page. We can just start calling them now from the browser. What is the second one? Register. Third one, contact. Fourth one, about. All you will do is calling the methods. Sir, the methods are non-static. How can I call them directly? Because non-static method requires a instance of the class, correct? When your request goes to the server, server is actually responsible for creating instance of the class and invoking the method. Is the point clear, all of you? When your request goes to the server, who is responsible for creating the instance? Server is actually responsible in creating the instance and invoking the method. You just simply specify which class, which method. And here you written as a test controller, right? But when you're calling, you don't require to type test controller. Test is enough. Okay? And the method name is enough. If method has parameters, we can pass the parameter values also here. If the method has any parameters, we can even pass the parameter values here. Okay, I'll show all in practical. First, I'm giving an overview of what is a controller and what is an action method. Suppose here I have a parameter int id. ID is a parameter what I wanted to pass for it. I can pass it like this here. /100. Did you catch my point? When I say /100, the value 100 comes to the ID. The value 100 comes to the ID now, and this ID will make use of that value in the code. Okay, how it uses is secondary, but just giving a gist of the things, like how exactly we can just call. Any questions, any doubts on this? Did you get an idea what is the controller? What is the controller? Controller is a class inheriting from a predefined class called controller. Okay, what does controller contain? Methods in it called as action methods. All methods are action methods? No. Public methods of the class are action methods. Suppose you define a private method in a class, it's a normal method. If you define an internal method or something, all these are normal methods. What method should be? Public methods. All the public methods in a controller class are called as action methods. And these action methods are going to be called by users from their browsers. From their browsers, these action methods will be called by the users. I hope you got my point here. Yes or not? This is how you are going to define the code in your C#. Okay. And now you understand. Now you want clarity why I said knowledge on C# is mandatory. Without knowledge on C# you can't do. You need to know what is the class first. You need to know what is inheritance, method defining, return types, parameters. Without having a knowledge on all these things, you cannot go for understanding the MVC architecture. You can understand web forms architecture without having a proper knowledge on C#, but not the MVC architecture. MVC is pure object oriented. Everything is classes, methods, and all. And you designed HTML pages now. We will be working with HTML pages here also, but here we call them as CS HTML pages. Means in the HTML pages, you will write C# code also now. In HTML pages, you are writing JavaScript, correct? Yes or not? From now, we will write C# also in that now. Oh, we will write C# in HTML pages? Yes. We are going to write C# coding in the HTML pages basically. But now the extension is not going to be HTML. The extension is CS HTML. Because our language is C#. If the language is VB, it is VB HTML. It's going to be VB HTML. If your language is F#, if it is FS HTML. So that name or that thing varies for you. But our coding will be completely done by using C#. But so our extension of the pages will be CS HTML. What is the HTML page here? What is the web page here? Not HTML anymore. What do we call? View page. If you save it with a .html, what are we calling? Web page. Okay. Actually, what is the ancestor for MVC? Before MVC, what we have? Web forms, I said, the extension is .aspx there. Extension is ASPX. Web pages are called web forms. Web pages are called as web forms there. And when you come to MVC, the extension is .cshtml. What we call? View page. Understood? So till now what you learned is web pages. Web forms is out of the discussion because that is outdated today. No need of learning, I said you. And right now what is the next thing we are learning is view page. View page extension will be CS HTML. Web page extension will be .html. So can I have HTML pages also in my website? Yeah, you can have HTML pages also in your website. If you have HTML page in your website, you cannot write any C# code there. When you can write C# code, only when the extension of the page is .cshtml. If your extension is simply .html, you cannot write any C# coding inside of it. If at all you want to write C# coding, extension should be .cshtml. Okay, fine guys, today I just thought like I'm okay and I'm clear with the controller for all of you. Any confusions with the controller? No, no? So two more components what we need to learn. What is that? View model. View I given an idea to you, right? View is nothing but presentation layer. View is your presentation. Nothing but our web page. But not called web page anymore. It's called as view page. The coding will be C# and HTML. And then we need to understand about the model. So tomorrow I'll tell you what is a view and what is a model and how all these three are connected with them directly in the architecture. Is that clear? Okay, I'll just talk about this in detail in the next session. Yeah, just a second. All of you, I forgot I posted it, I remember. I just not sure. Not sure. Let me confirm once. I'm posting up the complete notes here. Nearly it is some 300 pages odd. The whole notes I'm just posting in the Google Classroom. And I just placed only intro document. So what I'm doing now is I'm posting the complete notes. It's some 300 pages odd here. 326 pages. The complete notes. MVC 5, MVC Core 5, MVC Core 6. Everything. All included. Okay. So I just put off all these things in the Google class. You can just get access from your admins and you can just download. Yeah, these are 6 videos of the introduction class videos. What I have. Those also I'll post you there, guys. Okay, let me post up those particular videos also there. Anyone can download the videos from there. Yeah, all videos also I'm putting up there for the 6 sessions. You can access them from there. Okay, fine, guys. Let's wind up here. Tomorrow we'll just learn about the remaining 2 components. Okay, you can leave the class. Need more practical implementation for control. I'm just telling you what is a controller. Yeah, we did not go to programming. Why you're worried about this? Yeah, I uploaded videos on the Google Classroom. Complete MVC notes is available. Tomorrow Zoom link changes. Who said you? I did not change you that now. I'll inform you a day before. You can directly, those who completed your payments, just directly contact Arvind, and Arvind will provide you access to Google. Vinod, they will provide you the details. Arvind will respond to you by end of the day. All of you will be added. Who sent him the details will be added to Google Classroom. Google Classroom link will not be given to you directly, Santosh. Santosh, you need to contact the admin. The admin details are provided on the top. You can go through them. And he is actually going to provide you. You need to pay the fees, complete your fee payment, then only you'll give access to Google Classroom. If you want, he posted the videos also. You can just go through the videos. These videos. Introduction class videos. Sai Kumar and Dinesh, let us go into the subject here. Why are you worried? I'll talk about everything. Wait. Yes, there'll be a WhatsApp group for this. We'll create a WhatsApp group for this. Okay, guys, let's meet tomorrow. Is it important to learn? It's important means when you in MVC you don't require, but if you learn, that will be an added advantage for you.